Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about my rough draft that I'm working on currently for my capstone. My capstone revolves around formalizing the informal economy, and the informal economy and what it is basically people that work outside of social contracts. So let's say somebody gets a job at McDonald's and they submit their I-9, they submit their IDs, and there's a contract, and they're able to negotiate a employment with an employer. Whereas people that work outside of that economy or outside of that formal contract or formal economy, they don't have that. They tend to either be self-employed or working for somebody without a contract in place. So I'll kind of just start off with a little bit of my capstone, and just to kind of give you a feel for what's happening and some of my arguments. The writer and immigrant advocate Carla Cornejo Villavencio wrote this article for the New Yorker called "Waking Up for the American Dream," and basically it's about her parents' journey into the informal economy because of their immigration status. She writes about their hardships or kind of lack of opportunities, and in attempting to keep their family afloat. But as she's telling this story, recounting this story about her parents eventually get a divorce. And we run into issues of intersectionality, with her mother being undocumented, female, Latina, a non English speaker. We're just having all of these things kind of bump into each other. So the author kind of continues, telling the story, but as she relates to us, she states that it's not a unique thing. That this is something that immigrants, foreigners, face on a daily basis in their community. They're constantly looking for an opportunity. They're constantly hustling, constantly moving to get opportunities and prospects for their family. And when we talk about that, we have to admit that the economies of the first world countries, U.S., Europe, many parts of Europe, they do give that opportunity, that ability to move up. But they do come with a lot of caveats in place. So the plus to these opportunities is that. There's social contracts in a lot of cases when you're able to be gainfully employed. There are social contracts baked into these jobs. Things like regular pay, scheduled payments, scheduled work, sick time. If you are part of a union, things like collective bargaining, retirement, pensions, overtime pay. Those all things kind of come into effect. So these things, they're not available to people in the informal economy. And the informal economy, according to WIGO, and WIGO is an NGO that tracks and has written extensively about women in the informal economy. And more importantly, they have pushed for legislation to help people in the informal economy. So WIGO has been a good amount of information. And from there, we're able to see a lot of academic work and a lot of critical work about the informal economy. So, anyways, WIGO states that they have the data to back this. That women, unfortunately, are at a disadvantage, and unfortunately, women make up close to 60% of the informal economy. And when we say that, and when we talk about that, this work can sometimes be domestic work. So like a caretaker, babysitter, and au pair, to field work. And that work, again, also is work that keeps people on the road. They're never in one place at any given time. There are literally no contracts in place. They're working piecemeal. And again, as they deal with this, they're dealing with kind of a patriarchal structure. So issues of gender, issues we look at Carla Cornejo's story, in her regards, she's talking about a patriarchal system with some very strong gender roles in place, where women are expected to be caretakers for their own family and mothers to their children, and they are to provide. So these are all kind of things that play into some of the issues with the informal economy. And at the heart of what WeGo is attempting to do is to create a positive personal, professional development with active citizenry that will address the needs of that community. And what I am attempting to do through my capstone is to bring to light some of these issues. And so that we can kind of understand what they are, what are the viable solutions, what is going to help to bring an understanding, and more importantly, building a bridge to formalization to these people in this economy. And ultimately to help the women and the people that work within it. So it's kind of really important to kind of state that we need to attempt to remove the stigma from people who work outside of the formal contract, and that we need to start to have a better appreciation for this group of people. It's just not enough to say that the Apples and the Amazons and the Microsofts and some of the conglomerates are more important than the average worker and the average person that is providing for their family. So that's kind of my intent to do that, or my intent to kind of move forward with this. We're going to kind of talk a little bit about the informal economy, and we're going to see it through the lens of Latin America. Now, according to a United Nations agency, the International Labor Organization, Latin America has traditionally been a bastion for the informal economy. However, in the last 20 years, that number has changed. And in a lot of cases as a whole, half of their employment is from the informal economy. Half of their economy stems from this group of people who do not have social safety nets in place. This is how things work there. And a lot of this economy, not all of it, is centered in agriculture. Now, the issues that we have with agriculture is that they are prone to be impacted greatly because they're a commodity. So as prices go up, wages go up, work becomes more plentiful, and likewise, when the prices fall, there is a lack of work. Whatever it is that they were producing is not as worth as much, and in a lot of cases, this population gets impacted greatly. A lot of the times, it will lead into poverty and potentially death, and this comes again from lack of work. There's a lot of desperation. I think we're seeing a lot of that now at our southern borders, with people coming up from Central and South America in an attempt to look for opportunities. Now, these groups they tend to be seriously impacted by this, and one of the biggest issues that we've dealt with in the last couple of years is the pandemic, and the pandemic seriously impacted the informal economy. It really just put hurt on this vulnerable population. And because of insufficient or almost non-existent social safety nets, these workers were doing what they could to break out of confinement from the COVID restrictions, depending on where they were at, with an intent to provide for their families. And again, because there was no safety nets in place, there was nothing in place to help these people, there was a lot of suffering there. And I think that in the next few years and in the future, we're going to start to hear and see and get a lot of academic research and data about some of the impacts of these groups of people in this subculture. Okay. And again, we look back to that United Nations International Labor Organization, and they contend that in Latin America, that 9 out of 10 workers were female. and part of the informal economy. And because of the pandemics and the restrictions in the workplace, close to 25 to 30% of them lost their jobs and their careers. And the ones who did break out and did go back to work were seriously at jeopardy of contracting the virus and potentially worse. Again, as we talk about the safety nets, there was none in place for these group of people. They had to do what they could to survive, which again made them even more vulnerable than they were. And it's an issue that had some safety nets been in place, this could have happened. But in regards to COVID, in regards to the pandemic, that thing kind of came down as a drop in a concentric circles just came out from it, and as they rippled, so many things were impacted by it. At the far end, businesses went under. The employees that were part of the businesses maybe didn't get the bailouts that some of the bigger companies got. It presented an issue. So again, I just kind of wanted to kind of take some time just to kind of let you in on one of the examples of how the informal economy worked. But as we kind of talked about this a little further, kind of sharing the notes from some of the feedback I got from my peers, my paper did have some grammar issues. I'll have to go in and kind of tighten it up. And I got some notes from Dr. Chevalier also. But as a whole, I am pretty excited about my capstone. I'm pretty excited about how it's going to work. I think that this is a worthwhile endeavor, and I think it deserves exploration to talk about this issue about the informal economy and the women that are impacted by it, and I think it surrounds all of us. I think all know a shade tree mechanic. We all know a cake lady. We all know people who work independently of a formal contract and whatnot. And for myself, as Mexican American, we have tamaleras. We have women that we know that make tamales, and tamale is a corn meal, pork or chicken in it, and sometimes it has no meat in there. It just kind of depends on what it is. We usually have it during the holidays, but these are women and these are people who work outside of that formal economy that we purchase this from. We can go to a market and purchase, but in a lot of cases, we are on the lookout for somebody selling them. And we find that in neighborhood markets and neighborhood areas, there are people usually selling tamales outside of their cars or outside of the trunks of their cars. And maybe we'll see one occasionally set up a small tent somewhere, a pop-up tent, and they're literally selling on a corner. So we can't ignore this. This is an economy that's thriving. This is an economy that is culturally driven. This is an economy that lives, it breeds, and it provides so much to our culture as a whole. Okay, but at the heart of it, they lack formalization. They lack legitimacy, and we need to start having hard conversations about that. Again, it's not enough to say, hey, there's a McDonald's being built on a corner, or that Amazon or Apple is coming into town. Those businesses are great, but these businesses bring a lot to migrant communities. They can bring a lot to the communities at large, and we need to be aware of it. And it's definitely worthwhile to look into it, and it's definitely worthwhile for us to investigate.